I'll rewrite this story for you with new names, places, and a fresh narrative approach, while maintaining the core message about standing up to bullying and fighting for justice. Picture this: a teenage girl fighting for her life against cancer, her body weakened by months of treatment, dependent on a thin oxygen tube to breathe. All she wanted was normalcy, to attend class, complete her homework, return home. But in the packed corridors of Lincoln Valley High School, surrounded by hundreds of witnesses with phones ready, the star quarterback and his crew descended on her. They mocked her appearance, her illness, and then, in an act of cruelty that defied comprehension, they ripped the breathing apparatus from her face, literally stealing the air from her lungs while the crowd laughed and filmed. What those bullies never anticipated was that this girl's father wasn't just any parent. Daniel Rivers was a former special operations soldier who had spent years in the most dangerous corners of the world. His daughter's tormentors had just made a catastrophic miscalculation. The afternoon bell rang through Lincoln Valley High, releasing students into the main corridor like a flood breaking through a dam. Voices collided, lockers slammed, sneakers squeaked against polished floors. Amid the chaos walked Jasmine Rivers, slight and pale, a nasal cannula trailing across her cheeks and looping behind her ears, connected to a compact oxygen concentrator in her backpack. Chemotherapy had stolen her hair months ago, leaving her scalp bare under the harsh fluorescent lighting. Each step required concentration. Each breath was deliberate. Attending school wasn't about education anymore. It was about proving she still existed, still mattered, still had the right to occupy space in the world. At the corridor's end, a voice sliced through the noise. Well, well, the science experiment returns. Blake Morrison, quarterback and undisputed king of Lincoln Valley High, leaned against the trophy case, arms crossed, his Letterman jacket pristine. Beside him stood Tyler Reed and Connor Walsh, his ever-present shadows. Behind them, Blake's girlfriend, Sienna Morrison, also his cousin, already had her phone out recording. "TikTok Nation, you're not going to believe what just walked into school," Sienna announced to her camera, her voice dripping with manufactured excitement. Scattered laughter erupted. Phones rose like periscopes. Jasmine's pulse hammered, but she maintained her course. Avoiding them would only fuel their sense of power. She'd learned that lesson through painful repetition. Blake pushed off the trophy case and blocked her path, towering over her diminished frame. "What? No hello? After we've been such good friends?" "Move," Jasmine whispered, her voice barely audible. Blake never moved for anyone. His hand shot out and grabbed the oxygen tube. One violent jerk and it tore free from her nose, clattering to the floor. Instantly, Jasmine's world compressed. Air became scarce, precious, impossible. Her lungs seized, her chest constricted. She staggered, reaching for the wall. "Oh no, our alien lost her life support!" Sienna shrieked, camera steady. Tyler grabbed a sports drink from his bag and sprayed it over Jasmine's head. Cold liquid streamed down her neck, soaking her shirt. Students joined in with a chant that echoed off the walls. "Cancer girl! Cancer girl!" From somewhere in the crowd, another voice roared, "Leave her alone, Blake!" Jordan Hayes, Jasmine's only real friend at Lincoln Valley, charged forward. Tyler and Connor intercepted him, slamming him against the lockers with a metallic crash that reverberated down the hallway. "This is definitely going viral," Sienna laughed, phone capturing every moment. Jasmine tried desperately to breathe, clawing at the wall for support. "Don't cry," she commanded herself. "Never let them see weakness." Coach Patterson stood 30 feet away near the gymnasium entrance. His eyes found Jasmine, registered what was happening, then deliberately turned away. He studied his clipboard and disappeared into his office. Blake crouched down, retrieved the oxygen tube, and dropped it into a puddle of spilled drink on the floor. "Come on, guys." She's boring when she's about to pass out. The group swaggered away to applause and laughter. Students dispersed slowly, but the phones remained active. The video was already spreading through the school's social networks. Jordan rushed to pick up the cannula, his hands shaking as he tried to clean it and reconnect it to Jasmine's nose. "I'm sorry. I tried." "I know," Jasmine managed. "I just want to go home." When Jasmine arrived at the small house on Cedar Lane that afternoon, her father stood in the doorway. Daniel Rivers, broad-shouldered and still carrying himself with military precision despite civilian clothes, took one look at his daughter, clothes soaked, cannula askew, dried blood on her upper lip, and understood immediately. No words were exchanged, but in that moment, something hardened in Daniel's eyes. A different kind of battle had begun. That evening, dinner sat untouched on the table. The overhead light cast harsh shadows across 3 plates. Jasmine pushed food around mechanically, unable to eat. Her mother, Lisa Rivers, tried gentle encouragement, but Jasmine couldn't meet her eyes. Daniel sat at the table's head, motionless, his focus entirely on his daughter. He noted every detail, the damp clothing, the faint bruising where the tube had been torn away, the tremor in her hands. Finally he spoke, his voice quiet but edged with steel. "Who?" Jasmine remained silent. Lisa interjected quickly, "Daniel, please." "She's exhausted." But Daniel wouldn't relent, his gaze never wavered. "Blake Morrison, his crew." A slight nod from Jasmine confirmed what he already knew. Daniel pulled out his phone. A message from Jordan Hayes was already waiting, with a video file attached. He pressed play. Laughter, chanting, the image of Blake ripping the tube from Jasmine's face. It all filled the kitchen. Lisa covered her mouth. Jasmine looked down, shame burning in her cheeks. When the video ended, Daniel set the phone down with deliberate control. He rose, retrieved a black notebook from a drawer and began writing. Names in block capitals, like an intelligence report. Blake Morrison, quarterback Sienna Morrison, accomplice recorder. Tyler Reed, accomplice. Connor Walsh, accomplice. Coach Patterson, witness negligent principal, Howard. TBD. Lisa watched her husband with growing anxiety. "Daniel, don't turn this into a military operation. This is a school, they're kids." Daniel looked up, his expression unyielding. "This isn't kids being kids, Lisa. They removed life-sustaining medical equipment from our daughter. That's assault. That's endangerment." Jasmine's voice was small. "Dad, I don't want you getting in trouble. Please don't make this bigger." Daniel moved to his daughter's side, his large hand gentle on her shoulder. "Sweetheart, I've operated in war zones. I know when to strike and when to plan. This isn't anger. This is strategy." That night, Daniel worked alone in the living room, laptop glowing, coffee growing cold in forgotten cups. He opened multiple windows, a veterans support network, the school's social media feeds, an empty folder labeled Evidence. He downloaded the video, captured screenshots, noted timestamps, locations, every face visible in the crowd. His movements were methodical, precise. He'd planned operations against fortified enemy positions. Now he was planning to dismantle a corrupt system hiding behind a high school's walls. Near midnight, Lisa appeared in the doorway, wrapped in a robe. "You can't fight this forever, Daniel." He didn't look away from the screen. "I let this go too long, Lisa. I trusted the school to protect her. I was wrong. But if you turn this into a campaign, won't you just put Jasmine in more danger?" Daniel finally looked up. "No, Jasmine is already in danger. I'm giving her protection." Outside, Lincoln Valley slept under streetlights, unaware that within one modest house, a plan was taking shape. Daniel opened a new document and typed the title, Operation Lifeline. Beneath it, he outlined steps. Gather all evidence, video, photos, witnesses, identify enablers and conspirators, activate veteran support network, present evidence to administration. If system fails, escalate to media and legal channels. He highlighted the final line, evidence-based, systematic, irreversible. The clock approached 2 in the morning. Daniel closed his laptop, folded his notebook, and stood at the window. Across the street, lights blinked in the darkness. In his mind, he saw the faces from his notes: Blake, Sienna, Tyler, Connor. His eyes narrowed. This was no longer a schoolyard conflict. This was a mission to protect his daughter's right to breathe. In the silence, he whispered like an oath, "They tried to take my daughter's air. Now they'll answer to me." The following morning at Lincoln Valley High, whispers spread through the hallways like electricity. Jasmine's father, a Special Forces veteran, had confronted the administration. He had evidence, real evidence. In Principal Howard's office, tension hung thick. The principal sat behind his desk, papers scattered, sunlight cutting harsh angles through the window. Across from him sat Daniel Rivers, dressed in civilian clothes but radiating military bearing. His posture was perfect, his eyes steady. Before him lay a thick folder, organized like a tactical briefing. Beside Daniel sat Lisa, tense and worried. Jasmine had stayed home. Daniel refused to subject her to more psychological trauma. The door opened. Blake Morrison entered, still wearing his confident smirk, Letterman jacket bold red. Behind him came his mother, Catherine Morrison, blonde and dripping with expensive jewelry, a powerful member of the school board. Coach Patterson followed, clipboard clutched like a shield. Last came Officer Grant, the local policeman, arms crossed, expression dismissive. Principal Howard cleared his throat. "We're here to discuss yesterday's incident. Mr. Rivers, you requested this meeting?" Daniel opened the folder with deliberate precision. He placed documents, screenshots, and a USB drive on the desk. "This is evidence. A student-recorded video showing Blake Morrison and his accomplices physically removing oxygen equipment from my daughter during active cancer treatment. This wasn't bullying. This was medical assault," Catherine scoffed. "Ridiculous. Blake is 17. This is teenage drama blown out of proportion." Daniel didn't react. He slid a photograph across the desk, a freeze frame showing Blake's hand gripping the oxygen tube, pulling it from Jasmine's face. "This is deliberate interference with medical equipment. Under state law, this constitutes assault." Officer Grant shifted uncomfortably. "Kids go too far sometimes, but I don't see grounds for criminal charges. We can't criminalize every schoolyard incident." Daniel's gaze locked onto Grant. "I trust you can read legal statutes, officer. This isn't a schoolyard incident. This is a felony." Silence pressed down on the room. Principal Howard examined the documents, his face pale. "I can't ignore this evidence. Blake and those involved will face suspension immediately." Catherine slammed her hand on the desk. "Suspension? Do you understand how much money my family has donated to this school? This weekend is homecoming. If Blake doesn't play, this entire community will revolt." Daniel remained seated, his voice level. "If this community values a football game more than a cancer patient's right to breathe, then your problem is far deeper than I imagined." Coach Patterson finally spoke, his tone conciliatory. "Mr. Rivers, I witnessed the incident, but sometimes coaches can't control every hallway interaction. I apologize if Jasmine felt hurt." Daniel turned his cold gaze on Patterson. "You don't apologize for feelings, Coach. You apologize for turning your back when you had a duty to intervene." The room fell silent. Catherine fumed. Grant scowled. Patterson stared at the floor. Daniel gathered his papers. "You have 2 options. Handle this properly, or I take this evidence to my attorney, the press, and every veterans organization I know. Then not just Blake, but everyone who enabled this will face accountability." Principal Howard's hand shook as he signed a suspension order. "Blake Morrison, Tyler Reed, Connor Walsh, Sienna Morrison, 2-week suspension, homecoming game, cancelled." Catherine erupted. "You're cancelling a decades-old tradition over some video?" Daniel stood, tall and imposing. "You can purchase many things, Mrs. Morrison, but you can't buy back my daughter's breath." He walked toward the door, paused and looked back at Catherine. Your son made a choice. Now he faces consequences. The door closed behind him. Inside, Catherine's face burned with rage. Blake sat frozen, but outside in the hallway, students whispered, "Homecoming cancelled because of the bullying." The Morrison name, once synonymous with glory, now meant something else entirely. Daniel walked steadily toward the parking lot, his black notebook in hand. He added new notes. This was only the beginning. The real battle was just getting started. 2 days after the explosive meeting, Lincoln Valley High felt different. Students whispered in clusters, phones glowing with news that the Morrison family and school board members faced investigation. But Catherine Morrison wasn't the surrendering type. In her luxurious home office, Catherine sat behind a polished desk, phone pressed to her ear. Before her sat Officer Grant, Coach Patterson, and several loyal parents. "Daniel Rivers thinks he can destroy me with videos and notebooks," Catherine said coldly. "He forgets that power here isn't about evidence. It's about who controls the narrative." Officer Grant placed a folder on her desk. "We've collected statements from parents and students claiming Rivers has been intimidating people, stalking the school grounds, using his military background to threaten civilians." Patterson added, "He's been seen outside the football field multiple times, watching students. Kids feel terrorized." Catherine smiled. "Perfect. File the restraining order immediately." Tuesday morning, as Daniel returned from taking Jasmine to treatment, a police car waited at the Rivers house. Officer Grant stood at the door holding an envelope. "Court order, Mr. Rivers. Effective immediately. You're prohibited from coming within 500 feet of Lincoln Valley High or any school-related events." Lisa opened the door, shock on her face. "He's protecting his daughter." Grant shrugged. "The court acted on witness testimony. If he violates this order, he'll be arrested." That afternoon, Daniel read the order carefully, his face calm but his eyes darkening. Jasmine trembled beside him. "Dad, does this mean you can't help me anymore?" Daniel placed his hand on her shoulder. "It means I'll help you differently. They haven't won. They've just changed the battlefield." Catherine held a press conference that evening, cameras focused on her perfectly composed face. "We cannot allow an unstable individual to terrorize our school. The court made the right decision. Students can finally learn in peace." Blake and Sienna stood behind their mother, faces arranged in false victimhood. The broadcast spread quickly. Public opinion began to shift. Some called Daniel extreme, dangerous. In the Rivers living room, Jasmine watched through tears. "They're making you the villain, Dad." Daniel sat beside her. "Every battle has psychological warfare. They want us doubting ourselves, but truth doesn't change because of a news broadcast." He showed her dozens of emails from parents and students. More stories, more videos, more evidence. "See? The more they try to suppress it, the stronger it grows. We're not alone." That evening, Emma Martinez, Jasmine's English teacher, arrived with a new USB drive. "These are emails between Catherine and Patterson." She explicitly ordered him to alter incident reports, keep records clean for the team. "This is explosive, Daniel." Daniel took it, his eyes blazing. "We won't use it yet. Let them think they're winning. When the moment comes, we'll release everything at once." Lisa watched her husband, torn between fear and trust. She knew he'd turned this into a strategic campaign with clear objectives. At school the next day, some students avoided Jasmine. Others whispered "faker" behind her back. But new allies emerged, students touching her shoulder, whispering, "We believe you. Don't give up." Jasmine lifted her chin, breathing deeply through her cannula. She remembered her father's words: controlled breathing, controlled mind. The enemy was striking hard, but she knew her father was building a counter-offensive. This fight had only entered a harsher phase. By the weekend, Daniel had assembled a network. Not soldiers, but veterans, teachers and parents tired of corruption. They met in the river's garage, maps, documents, evidence covering every surface. Catherine controls the board with money and fear, Daniel explained. If we attack piecemeal, she'll block us. But if we release everything simultaneously everywhere, she won't have time to contain it. The plan launched Sunday. Emma Martinez sent the email evidence to a trusted journalist. Veteran groups received financial documents showing misuse of Booster Club funds. Online, hashtag spread, greater than justice for Jasmine. The evidence flooded social media, the original video, the locker incident, the email trail, the financial records. All at once, overwhelming, undeniable. In the River's living room, Jasmine watched the story explode across screens. Tears streamed down her face, but her expression was determined. "They're hearing us, Mom." Finally. Catherine's office became a war room. She screamed into phones, threatened lawsuits, demanded investigations into the leaks, but the evidence kept spreading. Students who'd been silent started speaking up. They changed my report too. I was threatened into silence. The Morrison family has controlled this school for years. The atmosphere at Lincoln Valley High shifted. The hashtag trended statewide. Media outlets picked up the story. The small-town scandal became national news. That evening, Daniel sat in his study, watching news coverage. A reporter read, "According to leaked documents, the Lincoln Valley School Board systematically covered up bullying incidents and misappropriated funds. Evidence includes emails between board chair Catherine Morrison and school officials." Daniel exhaled slowly. The initiative had shifted. Now the battle wasn't confined to boardrooms. It was public, visible, undeniable. "When truth comes to light," he murmured, "every power game dissolves." Jasmine stood in the doorway listening. For the first time in months, her breathing felt lighter. The autumn night was cold when homecoming returned to Lincoln Valley High, but everything had changed. The stands filled with students. But security was different now. Veterans stood watch. Cameras monitored every entrance. Jasmine sat in the middle section, Jordan beside her. Her cannula caught the stadium lights, a thin green line of life. "You sure about this?" Jordan asked. Jasmine gripped her oxygen line. "I'm done running. If I run tonight, I'll run forever." In the VIP section, Catherine Morrison sat rigid, her power visibly diminished. Blake and Sienna sat separately, no longer allowed near the field. As Jasmine walked toward the restrooms, 3 figures detached from the crowd and followed. Under the bleachers, fluorescent lights cast weak shadows. Footsteps echoed. "Hello, Oxygen Girl?" Blake's voice came from behind. Jasmine turned to find Blake, Tyler, and Connor blocking her path. Sienna stood back, phone ready. "Tonight, everyone sees you're just faking," Blake sneered, reaching toward her cannula. "Blake Morrison." A deep, calm voice froze them all. From the shadows, Daniel Rivers emerged, dressed in dark civilian clothes. His stride was measured, his presence commanding. Blake's face drained of color. "You're not allowed here." "There's a restraining order." "That order was lifted this morning," Daniel said quietly. "There's a new one, for anyone attempting harm against a student with medical equipment." Behind Daniel, a line of veterans in jackets appeared, silent and imposing. Jordan emerged from the opposite direction, phone held high, streaming live. "Hey, Lincoln Valley! Want to see what the quarterback does in dark corners?" Sienna panicked, lowering her phone, but too late. The live stream was already on hundreds of screens. Blake tried to bluster. "This is staged." Daniel stepped closer. "Everyone's watching now." Stadium lights shifted, illuminating the scene beneath the bleachers. Blake's face, caught in the glare, showed pure panic. Tyler and Connor abandoned him immediately. Police officers arrived, not Grant, but county deputies acting under the new court order. "Blake Morrison, You're being detained for assault and threatening the life of a student receiving medical treatment. Blake stammered, "My mother will fix this." Daniel's voice was quiet but final. Not this time. On the bleachers, phones showed the live stream. Applause began, scattered at first, then spreading like wildfire. The hashtag reignited. Jasmine drew a deep breath through her tube, her eyes shining. The fight wasn't over, but tonight, in the very place that had staged her humiliation, she stood tall, with her father before her, friends beside her, and justice finally beginning to tilt her way. 2 days later, Catherine Morrison and several board members were officially suspended, facing criminal investigation. The county court ordered a full audit. Monday morning, students returned to Lincoln Valley High to find veterans standing silent watch outside. Inside, the atmosphere had transformed. Mockery had become respect, tinged with guilt. In the gymnasium, Principal Howard made an announcement. Lincoln Valley High failed one of its most vulnerable students. Today, we implement a zero-tolerance policy for any violence involving medical devices. Any such act results in immediate suspension and criminal charges. Thunderous applause filled the gym. Then Howard gestured to the wings. Today, someone's voice needs to be heard. Jasmine walked forward, oxygen tube catching the light. Applause swelled until the entire gymnasium roared. Jordan and Lisa sat in front, eyes brimming with pride. At the back, Daniel stood silent, arms folded, a pillar holding the room steady. Jasmine held the microphone, her voice trembling but clear. "Last week, someone tried to take my breath. They thought cancer made me weak. They thought I was an easy target." She drew a deep breath. "But I'm still here. Still breathing. And every breath proves they were wrong." Silence fell. Even phones stopped clicking. "I don't stand here just for myself. I stand for everyone who's been belittled, bullied, made to feel unworthy of breathing this air. You are worthy. We are worthy." Applause erupted. Students wept openly. Jasmine raised her hand for quiet. "They can take my hair. Illness did that. They can take my time. I spend more days in hospitals than classrooms. But they will never take my dignity. No one is allowed to." Daniel bowed his head, hiding his pride. Lisa squeezed his hand. Principal Howard returned to the microphone. "From today, Lincoln Valley High launches the Lifeline Initiative, safe hallways for every student with medical equipment. We'll form an independent oversight committee, and Jasmine will cut the ribbon." Jordan jumped up. "Justice for Jasmine!" The crowd roared back in unison. The chant echoed through the vaulted gymnasium, a sound that would be remembered for years. Outside, reporters broadcast the moment live. The image of Jasmine standing center stage, oxygen line glowing, became a symbol, no longer a victim, but a warrior. Catherine Morrison sat in a lawyer's office, facing corruption charges. Blake awaited trial. The community finally saw the truth. The real source of instability wasn't Daniel Rivers, but those who'd abused their power. As the ceremony ended, students rushed to embrace Jasmine. Daniel approached, saying nothing, only placing a hand on her shoulder. She looked up, smiling. "I did it, Dad." I took my breath back. Daniel nodded softly. "No, Jasmine. You never lost it. You only needed to remember. You were always in control of your own breath." They walked out of the gymnasium together, through cheers, through light, through the phones capturing this moment of transformation. A new chapter at Lincoln Valley High had begun, and Jasmine Rivers, fragile but unbreakable, had proven that dignity can never be stolen, only defended. And sometimes all it takes is one person refusing to stop breathing.